The introduction. Good to go.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our Friday Tech Talks at the Tech Academy. Today we have Wesley and Rolfson here with us, and they're going to talk about data instrumentation. So thank you for being here, and take it away.
All right, welcome everybody. So as I said, my name is Wes, and I am going to talk to you about instrumentation, clicking into the data. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about the who and hows of click data, and so focusing more on like clickstream, like interactions with applications and websites, and how we can use that to improve our data collection process. And then like where does all of the click data fit into your design process, and what are the roles around click data, like who uses click data, when we should not really utilize click streams versus backend data. And then we're going to do some like interactive examples, and then we'll have questions. So a little bit about myself. Started out doing data work while being a paramedic firefighter. It's a very fun and interesting way to get into data. Developed a lot of skills in Python and SQL, and then a lot of self-learning about all the other like tools and ways of collecting data. Worked for eCornell for a while, worked for Sensor Steel, and currently I'm a data engineer / analyst, mostly analyst who got trained to be a data engineer, doing instrumentation work and automation, data validation. So that's a little bit about who I am. So what is data instrumentation? So we can simplify that down to the development or utilization of tools or elements, like a survey is a good tool for instrumentation, like the questions on the survey, and even like the way that the survey looks can make a difference on how people interact with you, and so we can gather information about that. That's what we're really working on, is collecting data to support a hypothesis or a question that we might have, whether that's about how people use your website or interact with your products or application. And again, it's really user interaction pointed data. Like we're talking about how a user would interact with us. And so who actually uses instrumentation? Like at a very high and simple level, we're talking about pretty much everybody started out life by doing this process. So as a baby, everything goes in your mouth, and your mouth is your method of measuring things. But we also try to like trigger events. Like when I signal my hand to do something, it like flexed or it grabbed something. And so we're constantly collecting this information, and our brains are really good at doing this without us even paying attention. As adults, we can look at it in terms of like business processes, sending out a survey to customers, having them answer a series of questions to provide us with information about our products or what they do and don't like. Scientists create hypotheses, and they use instrumentation to measure events like chemical reaction, like what byproducts come off, and we can collect information from individuals as in psychology, like having them interact with different objects in their environment and seeing how they do that. What do they do? Which ones do they prefer? And then in life systems, the same thing. We can collect information about how people are interacting with things. So it kind of spans a wide variety of careers and opportunities to like improve upon your own product. And we can look at that as being data driven. Like that's our goal, is to switch from trying to use our intuition or what we think might be the best where how people are going to interact with our products, and look at it from more of a data side. Like, how can we collect data to tell us how that's been going and how we can make it better? So if we think about this in terms of like technology and like data engineering and the data world more, data instrumentation is a process of defining how we're going to collect the information about our user in a way that is like easier to collect, or trying to find like the most important things we want to collect information about. Because if you have a website and you create events for every single click, all the scrolls, every hover, everything that they do, that's a lot of data. But it's not really going to answer any questions. It's just, you're just collecting it to collect it. And so we want to think about this in more like a formalized process. And so I wanted to like pass on to people the idea, like web designers design really great websites. They look great. But if we want to collect data about it, we need to make a process. And so this slide is really about that process that we should be going through, which is first thing you want to do, and this can be applied to other business roles and in other parts of our lives too, is define the requirements that you want to collect information about. Like, I want to know about everybody who views the Tech Academy talks. Who are those people? How do they get to the website? Like, what's the process that they're going through to even get to watch a TED or one of our Tech Academy talks? Or you might have questions about, like, while they're watching our presentation, what do they do? If we were really smart, we could build our own app and run it through our own streaming video chat, and then everything on your screen could be a way for us to collect information about you. Like right now, we could ask some questions. Like, I want to know how many people are actively looking at the screen while they're in the video. So we could build an app that does object recognition, looks for eyes that are pointing forward. So when people look down, we capture that moment. They're not looking at us anymore. We can really pay attention to that. Excuse me. So anyway, we can use this process. So first we come up with questions or requirements of things we want to collect data about. And then we want to communicate with the people involved. And this is kind of an important step. A lot of processes that I've seen kind of skip down and start working on designing the actual thing. So like, if you were designing a website, they might just jump right into creating a layout and figuring out how everything's going to work. But I'm suggesting that we need to jump in and get together with our data engineers, the data architects, your analysts who are going to process the data at the far end of this, and your business stakeholders, and talk about those business requirements and the questions that you want to answer early, so that you can affect the design in a way that improves the end product, which is the ability to actually answer our questions that we might have. So once you have sat down with those individuals, you can go over what the requirements are that you have for and the questions you might have. Like, we want to know about how many people are actually, if it's a job search site, how many people are actually clicking all the way into applying for jobs. We want to track the entire flow all the way through their website, each page, every part they interact with. But more specifically, we really want to target when they click that apply button on the job search page. How many people make it that far in that funnel? How can we design a better funnel so we can direct people to that button. And that's kind of the process. And then the next step is actually instrumentation. We'll go into more detail, like what that actually means as far as like the actual process, but like really what that means is creating definitions for what an event is, coming up with a template to track all of your different kinds of events that you want to capture about your product or your website, how you want to create a message, how you want to send it, where does the message go that you're creating, and then what kind of processing you want to do on the server side. Like, once you have this data, are you going to form it into the flow as they went through the website, or are you going to keep it as each individual event? Are you going to convert it into like aggregations of how many times they clicked a button, those kinds of things. And then after you've come up with that plan for how you're going to collect data about your users, you then develop the API that actually writes the messages, and the backend code that captures data about the individual, not just about their clicks and their interactions. And then the front end, like what does the website actually look like, and what functionality, the logic that makes it flow. And then there's testing. You should always have testing as a part of it, and validating that all the things that you've said it was going to do are actually working. And then the final push to either produce the product or publish the website, or write up your survey results. And then taking the information and analyzing is the last step. And often what happens is people get all the way to the development stage. They have not done any instrumentation work. They don't quite know what's going on. The developers are making all of the things in the background for you, but they're disconnected from the graphics UI guys and the website designer. And in that disconnect, we often miss opportunities to improve our own process. And so this really what we're talking about is putting in these steps over here in that order, so that we can, when we get to analysis, instead of giving someone a huge pile of data and trying to figure out if we can answer our questions, start the process by paying attention to the questions we want to ask and the requirements that we've been given, to make sure that when we get to analysis, not only can we answer those questions, but we can turn around on itself and do continuous improvement more quickly. Like if the website's not, if people aren't navigating the website like you think they should, we can use the data about how they interact to tell us more about what we should change in our website, instead of having to do A/B testing kind of blindly. We have information we can use to improve our own process. So the roles that are involved, we want to get the graphics and the UI team, the people who are actually engineering what the product will look like, the website, your application, together with the backend engineers and the data architects, and then bringing in like a data governor or a database administrator, someone who's going to manage the data coming in, along with the people who are going to analyze the data, so that we're all on the same page. We can all work together, because the graphics team, they don't really understand what's possible for like a data analyst to do, or what exactly they might need. And then the business and decision makers, they're far removed from this process, and they're really just interested in the answers to their questions. And so if we bring all of these people together, we can really, and early on in the process, we can establish can take all of the misconceptions and the misunderstandings and get those out of the way really early. We can also have ready access to the information. So like if the business users are wanting to really just want to know like how much money are we saving ourselves by having this new feature, or if they want to know if users are even using the new feature, if that's all they care about, we can eliminate a lot of extra code and events that maybe would be useful for a different reason, but currently we're not doing that. We're not actually interested. We just want to answer a very finite group of questions. And so in order to go more into detail on like actual instrumentation and like what does that look like. So when you're instrumenting, especially in terms of like websites and applications, like computer applications or like web applications, we're really just talking about measuring a single event. Like, and again, that's just any action that a user can take or interaction a user can have with your website, with your program, with your store, and we'll apply it to some other like real world examples too. But for the sake of this talk, it's more about like computer programming of websites, like how do they interact with it? And the trigger, it's a common term, is the actual action. So like a click, a keystroke, they hover on something, like move the mouse over the top of it and they hold it there for a measurable period of time. So like not just like moving the mouse across the screen, but does the mouse stop on top of a button or a section of text? And then scrolling, and that can be, you can define that to be scrubbing, which is moving through a video, versus scrolling through a website. And you can define these terms. And really the most important thing about this is not necessarily that you have the same exact definitions for the terms like across all products, but like for this specific product that you're using and all of the products inside of your own company, that you would keep the same data dictionary going. Like a scrub means moving through audio or visual media. And so you would define that as a part of your process. And then highlighting text or parts of a website. And then search events, you have to separate a click. So if they click into the search bar, that's still click. But if they type a word into the search bar, we can capture keystroke. And then the final one is search, which means actually clicking a button to cause a search to occur, as in like launching the search, or another term people might use is like executing the search. So you could define that term as being execute search or launch search. And then elements is the next thing. And an element is whatever you're interacting with. So that could be the search bar, it could be a menu, it can be a button. On this screen here, this is one big image in the background, but you still might attempt to capture how many people, this is a very boring picture, but let's say there was some like misplaced object on this picture where it's not actually the button, it's a exit sign sitting in the top right corner or top left corner of this picture. If you were wondering if people are trying to click on it, you could instrument this space on your website and say, "What are people clicking here? Because they're not clicking the X." And I just want to know, like, how many people are getting confused by our graphics and clicking in the wrong space? You could do that. That could be the element. So it's whatever you can define on the screen or the application that a person can actually interact with. Not necessarily the action they do, but the thing they interact with. Okay. And so we can define elements, and the reason we would want to is because we also want to be able to like give an address or like describe more clearly, like not just that they clicked a button, but which button did they interact with? What application were they inside of? A lot of companies will have like a website that has like products or applications inside of it. So for instance, the Tech Academy isn't just people talking. It has books, it has courses you can be taking. There's a part that's about careers. You have different applications that your user might go to. Or you might define those as pages. And it just kind of depends on how you want to structure your product or your thing that people are going to interact with. So you can define these however you want. This is just kind of an example of how you might do that. And then however you organize like the top level, you can also incorporate like, I'm going to say application, and then we're going to have pages in my application. And then on my page, I'll have components or a grouping of smaller elements like a navigation bar or a menu, or I've seen some pretty creative people where they did like literally a bookshelf where it looks like the books are going across your screen. Those would be, that whole area would be called a component because it's made up of things. And then you could go to like a location, because I might use that same component or page in multiple locations throughout my entire, like my big product that I have. And I would want to be able to say, even though I'm reusing it, where was it? Because as we create an event, what we're really doing is capturing a series of data points about that event. And we want to be able to recreate either how the person navigated from the first time they went to the website till they left it, or we want to know the first place they entered. Like they may get smart and realize if they look in their address bar, they don't have to start at your homepage, they can jump right to the job search. And we can track where they enter our website using a location, just like we can track which button in which component of what element they actually click or hover or whatever. So those are all important things. This is to keep in mind. So this is an example. Like I said, you want to have some sort of a template for how to track these events, especially when you start getting very involved or large products. Like a website is a one-page website may not be so bad, but if you have multiple pages and menus and tabs that can appear, some of the more creative and interesting websites that you can come across, you would want to create a table or a template that kind of defines not just as you build, but for the analysts as they try to put together the data. Like what does it mean when I see this message come across in our database? So we can just kind of go through the process. So let's see. Marketing wants to know about, got some really good questions. They want to know about users. They want to know about job search. They want to know about the learning that's going on so they can help improve their outreach. They want to be able to talk about how many users are using their site already. Well, we could answer those questions. We can also help finance, figuring out, how many people are subscribing and buying a product, and how many people are not buying it because when they get to the checkout page, can't figure out where the final button is. It's off the screen, so they never scroll down, or the menu just doesn't make sense to them, so they are making it all the way to that last part where they're just about to purchase your book, and then they leave. Or how are they leaving? What are they filling out? How much of the form do they fill out? What, those kinds of questions. We can answer those questions through instrumentation. We can track what they do on your site and your application and figure that out. But you have to create events to make that happen. So here's some examples from just looking at websites. So say you decide that you're going to create this kind of a template. So you have your ID, like which event are you tracking, a category of the events, which oftentimes lines up with your application product page. It lines up with these as being your categories. And the type, you might have a web version and you might have a mobile or like a tablet version of your site. So you might track how that works, and that they're different. And then what's the behavior? And so this is where we write in plain English, or as best we can, what the event should be. So in the user profile on the web, when they go through the process of typing into the search menu, we don't care about if they clicked into it. We don't really care if what keys they hit, or if they deleted a search as they were working on it. Well, we only really wanted to capture when they clicked the search button, what was in that actual bar, like what did they type to search for. And we want to know, and we're looking for, and it's a location search bar. So we're going to say they were looking for what location they wanted to put down for themselves. And we're tracking where in the app. Location in app is a custom field that we decided to create on our own, which literally means where in the application did they use this location search bar? Because we might have other places we're going to use the same exact code and object. So we would want to specify where in the app. And again, this probably points to one of the elements, like second page or the job profile page. And there might be another one that's on the bookstore, where can they go buy your book in person? So there would be a different place you could use the same exact search bar, which we've just copied the code and put somewhere else. And another thing that you could also have done to make this easier for the analysts is using snake case. So in where it says profile status, and then there's this comma or this parentheses section that comes next, we could have spelled out all the places that we expect to see the search bar show up. But we didn't do that this time. And then we go to the job search and we see the same thing. It's a web-based event. We want it whenever they click the X in the corner. We don't have to say in the corner. We can just say the X, because there's only one X button on this job search page. And we're capturing that they click it, and we want it, and we're calling that object the close button. So whatever I call the object, I want it to line up with this field. And just to be safe, I'm also capturing what ID I gave that object in my code. So it's a general concept of data-driven instrumentation is every object that I want to capture an event with, it has to be assigned an ID so that I can reference it. And that might even be as simple as close button. But whatever you decide, the analyst in the end can use that to filter out and figure out if people are even using your close button. Maybe they just click somewhere else on your screen and the window closes. Well, if they're not clicking the close button, we're going to find out really quick because we won't have any events with it. And that would help us to figure that out if they're not actually using it, or if something's broke on our website, like clicking the X does nothing. Well, that would be handy to know. And again, we want to capture where in the app are they doing this. There might be other places we don't know at this point because it's all just for demo. And then we're also capturing their profile status, whether or not they've gone through this process before, if they finished it, or if they failed to complete the entire form that's on this page. Since we don't really have one to look at, but this is probably referencing the fact that they didn't fill everything out. And we can pull that data from the back end, or we can capture it in the click data. And this is triggering off of a button close. So we're saying, tell us how much of the application on the form that they're filling out that they actually completed. And the rest of these events follow a similar pattern. The last one I wanted to talk about in this one is this last one right here, which is you can also capture interactions that are just the fact that they viewed something on your website or your application. They don't have to actually like click or drag or move, other than that they scrolled, and we want to know if they've seen something on the screen. So you can use instrumentation to capture that as well, not just that they click something, but also that they view it, as in like the edge of that container entered the screen by 200 pixels. We can do that. That is a possible thing you can do. The only thing that you need to make sure you do is add in some sort of label or custom field that captures what the name of this container is, because this is a very generic, anytime any container enters into this, enters the screen, we were trying to capture what the name of it is. And you can be pretty creative. Like we created one that says viewed with a space, and then whatever your container name is. So that's a possibility. You can, it's fairly easy to code. So again, really important to get the engineering team involved in early, because if they don't write their API right, you're not going to get this one. It's not going to be possible later. And then the other thing is, this works great the first time you build your product, but what happens if after the fact you decide that there's something that you're not capturing? So in this example, it's about a Parks and Rec department, and they have facial recognition, object recognition cameras all over their park to keep track of a variety of things. And so they've taken advantage of that. They're capable of tracking whether or not you do certain things inside the park. So first time they did it, they captured that the visitor jumps. Well, they got a great AI machine learning module running. It captures as a person, and they just jumped. And they were in the grass. We can track that. Sounds great. We can track what kind of grass it is. And the suggestion is subtype might capture these types of things. Again, this is not an exclusive list. You're just suggesting these are options that you might have. Afterwards, they figure out that they need more data about those. They like that people are jumping. They want to know more. So what the best way of handling that is actually to build into your template early on version control. Like, what version of this event is it? Rather than building a whole new event, you can just create a version and say, now this is Adams 1 version 2. And while older interactions won't have this new data, everything after we push this through the process, we'll be able to capture what we want, which is we're now wanting to know what's the temperature outside, where on the property were they when they were jumping? Is there certain areas that people jump? Want to know that. And then, is it shady? Is it sunny? Like, how much light is getting to that chunk of ground that we're tracking where they're jumping? Because that could be, maybe they've figured out that people like to jump in the shade. We don't know. And that could affect future park designs, or where you put stuff in the current park. Maybe if we don't collect this information, we won't be able to figure that out. No, prior to data instrumentation, what you would do is someone would just kind of like, well, I would want to jump in grass that's in the shade. Well, that's a very biased view, and can lead to like designing a park or your product in a way that the users don't really like, and we're less likely to continue using. Whereas if we use data from users, where it's actually really, it seems like it slows you down a little bit, but actually in the end, you're going to get better results, and you can actually answer your questions, which is the whole point. Is to improve our process and make either users experience better, or to make us more money, or to be more efficient about how we do things. This all comes from this. And then the rest of these things are just more examples, like how does it work? And happy to talk about these during the question part of it if you have questions about this stuff. But so that's the basic idea. And so I think it's easiest just to actually kind of see it in action. So marketing. Which of these would you like to view today? Where would you like us to focus our attention?
We can do the academy.
Okay, good answer. Okay, so this is the Tech Academy website. So congratulations, you guys have all been hired to be a part of the data instrumentation team. So what we need to do is we need to figure out, first step, they already built the website, so we can't design it. But if we want to make improvements, we want to recognize things like that can be instrumented. So rather than cheating and running your mouse across every single thing on the screen, first step would be, so marketing, can you give us an idea of like, what's the #1 question about our site that you want answered? Like, can you tell me a little bit about like what is exciting to you, like as a marketing person, like what you want to know about our users?
So basically people who are checking out our website and what they're interested about on there, you mean?
Yeah, what's just a question you're just dying to know about users who come to check out the Tech Academy?
So we do have a book section on there. I wonder if how many users are going through that. Yeah, exactly. Going through that click on the books that we offer.
Right. So the first step is, so she didn't say she wanted to know how many of them navigate all the way to it. She wants to know just this. So we could write an event that says, so this is, we'll call this event 1. And we're going to call it, this is the web. I don't think you have an application. So maybe your just type is just going to be web, but you don't know yet. You might have an app later. So we're just going to leave type on there. And the user, anytime the user clicks on this books item, and so we know that this is inside of the products and services menu. So it's a drop down, but we only really care about that one. So we're going to call this object, this element, books. And to make it even easier to tell how they got there, we're gonna name the label whenever they click this button. Product services.books is the name of this object. And whenever they click it, we're going to generate a message that says our ID one, that it's the web. We're gonna skip what the user behavior is because that's just for us as the analysts to know later. And we're gonna put the event as click and the object as, like I said, product services.books. And when for the custom fields, it's a pretty sophisticated site. We're also going to capture what their browser is. We're going to capture if they've logged into the site in any way, we're going to capture the user ID. And then we're going to try to capture, like, let's see if I can see what other things are hiding here. Like, you could probably inspect it. We could capture a couple other things about it, like what, like the browser, and then like what kind of computer they have. And that data all gets generated by the API in the background whenever we click this button anyway. When we tell it I want to go to books, that their web server is already doing the work. All we're saying is, while you're already doing the action to send me to the new page, also send one more message that says to our database, an event got triggered because they clicked books, and provide me this message. And so this can get stored in a database of everything that the user does from the moment they got onto this website till they left. And we can capture that as a hit or an event. And then we can also stitch all of the events back together to make a session data, like all the things that they did while they were with us. Like how many pages they visited, how many links did they click, how long did they stay on the site. You can do all those things by stitching all of our events back together. So on this page alone, you could event each of these menu options every time they click or hover. We can track. We could also say that, so she wants to know a book. So the next thing she says is, I want to know how many people are seeing this Technology Basics Dictionary. I want to know how many people are seeing these things that are down lower on the screen. So we're going to event a thing that says, as soon as I get, and 200 pixels is pretty standard because this 1040. So it's about this much of the screen. We're starting to see the edges of this. So we're going to make an event that says, I want to know as soon as they see this much of their screen on this, or how much of this container. We want to see 200 pixels of this. I want an event that triggers, so I know that they saw it. Now, they didn't see the whole thing, but they saw there was something down there, and that's what I wanted to know. Like, are they actually getting down far enough on the site to see this? Because if this is my money maker, marketing comes back and says, you know what, guys, this is what makes us the money. This is the thing that we sell the most. I want it up top more. People aren't clicking on it enough. I'm not getting enough hits. Or they click this buy now button and it takes them to the marketing page. We just left the site. But I want to make a new thing in between here I'm going to do A/B testing. I want to do A/B testing where if they click this buy now, I bring up a pop-up menu that allows me to capture like, why are they buying it? And when I added that feature, I want to be able to track all the fields that they enter, but most importantly, I want to know how many of them actually complete it. Like, if adding this pop-up menu lowers the number of people who actually end up buying it because we annoy them, we added too much, to the workflow, we'll just shut it off. But if we don't collect the data, you're not going to know. And that's kind of, again, it's really important that we can use instrumentation to target our own questions. Like, how many people are being discouraged from buying because I popped up this thing now? So, and we can do other things too, like have videos on this page. So I would have to find one, but if you have, I think if I remember where they are. So it's very loud. So we can also track. So, you guys make a lot of really cool videos and marketing material, and everybody enjoys it. But also, you made a new one, and the last 10 seconds of this video features Chris Thompson. And Chris Thompson is famous coder guy. Everybody loves him. And he's got a new product he's introducing. But nobody watches that far. They all get bored. Even though you have such a great video, they stop watching. All of them are stopping in the last 10 seconds and never see it. But you want to prove that. So we could instrument that. We could tell it that, because this is an interaction. Them watching this video, until they stop watching it, we can figure out the second they stop. We can also track what percentage. We can capture what percentage of the video they've been watching. And we can even track what they click on. Like, if they all mute, they don't hear, we would want to know that. What every time they mute it, like, will they mute? Everybody's muting right away. They're not. Yes, they watched your videos, professor. They watched the whole thing. Well, they turned the sound off. Okay. Well, how many people are doing that? Like, all of them are doing it. Well, I'd want to know that. And maybe your test scores for your classes are poor in this one section. Well, it's because like they're not watching it. They turn the sound off and they go on YouTube. The only way you know that is, the only thing you can really tell is that they've been using these volume controls. So those are things that we can instrument. We can track that for you. We can track whether or not they played at the right speed. They're trying to get through it too quick. We don't know. Everything about what they do, we can track. And my buddies over at eCornell, they are all over data instrumentation and feeding that data into improving their churn. They want to get as many people as they can through their entire website. And similar to how the Tech Academy sets up their website, but if you make a new thing, you have to find a way to test it, and instrumentation is kind of the way to do that. Okay, so I want to show you guys one more example from our list of fun things. And I don't know if they're going to participate well. I have not had the most luck most of the day. They've not been behaving correctly. But let's say that you work at a zoo and you want to know, how can I make the ape area better? We can instrument this. We can even use instrumentation to improve the zoo environments for monkeys. And how would we do that? Well, we can use image recognition. We can track how many times the monkeys go interact with each of these things. And before, if we didn't have, really good AI technology, and you have to have someone sit here and watch a video, or a zookeeper, someone's got to sit on the side and record, like, where do they go? What do they do? But we can use live video feeds. Someone can make this a project. It'd be really funny to see someone do this, but to track where the monkeys go on their environment. And what do they do when they're on this environment? Do they jump? Do they swing? What are they doing? And we can improve their environment just by instrumenting. Like we make one that says, do they climb this pole? If they climb here, an event gets triggered. You can find out things like they don't like this one. Whatever, there's something about this. They don't like this hammock. You never go here. Well, we're not monkeys. We don't know what motivates them necessarily, but they told us, and we can use the same concepts for websites to design better monkey enclosures. Or we're interested in redesigning the beach in front of our hotel. And so we have the tables arranged like this. We have, the water out here. We can capture people moving up and down this dock. We can instrument this by creating, just by, using machine learning to, image recognition to figure out where people are sitting, standing, jumping, incorporate that with other information we're collecting in the back end about what temperature it is, what time of day it is, and improve our beach area at our resort. This is just some examples of how that can be applied. And I know we don't have very much time left. There's only like 5 minutes left, right? But if you guys have any questions, it's kind of my presentation on instrumentation and how it can be applied.
Oh, that was great. I learned a lot. I didn't realize, I didn't know much about instrumentation, and it seems very helpful, especially in marketing actions. But thank you so much. And let's see, are there any questions? Looks like Chris already has a question.
Chris, I'm unmuting your mic, so give me a moment, and then you can ask your question. All right, go ahead, Chris.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. That was a great presentation. It demystified it to a great extent. How do you actually go ahead implementing it? I assume that you hook this up to a commercial product rather than writing the event listeners yourself?
You coordinate with so like if you're doing a website, the first step is oftentimes there's like a development. There's the developers who write the code to make the website work, and you have to coordinate with the data engineering team that would like manage your database for you. They might be the same person, but oftentimes they're different. So then instrumentation, if you're doing data instrumentation, oftentimes what you're really doing is taking design requirements and objects like they make like on the screen here, they've made this share button, and coordinating between the code that they write to make it so I can click on this, and the data engineering team who's going to have a database or like a place for the data to go next, to design like the type of message or like the order the message has to be written into, so that let's see if I have that one. So I had an example written down. There it is. So like the actual message that's leaving the API, the thing that's like running in the background, comes out. One thing. It might look sort of like what's up top minus the parentheses, where you basically tell it whenever I click this button, put together this string, this text string that says what's the ID, what category are we in, what's the type of application we're running, they clicked on a link. What's the ID of the thing that we just clicked? What's the status of it, whether or not they visited it before or not? And then we take that string, and there is a commercial product like people might use like Audubon or some sort of like messaging API that's going to send it from the website to website server to the actual like database wherever it's being stored. So like if it's on like an S3 or if it's on their like internal servers. But typically what happens is it's not sending like one event, it's sending a packet. Like you can design that to send every 30 seconds. I'm going to send all of the events, all the interactions the user has had with our website or server or application. So that, I mean, it's cost saving. You want to say, because it costs money to send these messages. It's really like in like the tenths or billionths of a penny, but still that could add up. So we're making a package of them, and that's all handled by an API. It just gathers all the events that you've generated, puts them into a packet, sends it to the server to process, and then depending on the company or the organization, it's either going to get like reprocessed into a format that they can use, or just kept in a raw state, like literally a JSON file with hundreds of rows of events that just happened in the last 30 seconds from one user.
Okay, so you're really talking about a bespoke solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got one, Regina. Well, Wesley, it seems like there's going to be a lot of coordination that has to be done between the dev team and the instrumentation team. And is it something that goes pretty smoothly now, or is it really still kind of in its early stages?
It goes pretty smoothly. Like most of my day, I don't do this all day. I like to do it through like a good chunk of my day is doing other data engineering and analyst tasks. But so like really it's just helping to coordinate and make sure like more it's like of all they're already busy writing the website code, and the database team's busy doing their job, and this is just like a small thing to make sure that the message that we send is possible. So if you've already built your API and it's already done, your next what's better remembering this your sprint. People do a lot of agile sprints. If your work sprint says that it's full, they're not going to get to that for like 2 weeks. And if you're launching your website in the next week, then you're just not going to get that. That's more of the problem, is like making sure that you're getting ahead of the need. So marketing comes to you and says, I want to know everybody who's like actually clicking into this new thing. Well, that has to get built. The messages have to get built. So right now, when you click on the website, it just goes to the new page. And the user will never know that you're doing all this back end work anyway. So it's not like the website breaks, but you have to build the messages. And so if the sooner we can get in and have conversations about what is needed, the better. And so like one approach often that's taken is, well, we're just going to event like every click, every button, every hover, everything. Well, that's a huge amount of data, and who's going to process all that data and go through and sort it out? And also all the custom fields and making sure the label is right and all that work, that if you do that earlier in the process, from the very beginning when you started designing the website or your application, or whatever you're really doing, you're saving yourself so much more time. It's not that it's a lot of work. It's just that it's a lot of work if you don't do it to begin with. Like, you don't consider what data you want to collect from the beginning.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Having to go back and add it afterwards, it seems like it'd be much more difficult. So I did Google data instrumentation just before the talk, and it came up with an article on the smart home and home appliances. That's why I brought up the stove.
Oh yeah, no, you could definitely do that.
Yeah.
So that you can do instrumentation to make things, like you can instrument to make appliances work better, but it's like in combination. We use instrumentation in combination with like machine learning. Like, we realize that you're an event action trigger. Like, your GPS on your phone triggers an event. That right there is the first step. Whenever I enter into this geofence, that's really just instrumentation.
Yep.
Do this, but I had to capture it, and that's the instrumentation step. Try capturing that they did something. Like, on your phone, like, it knows to stop the video because you're not looking. That's instrumentation. If my eyes leave the screen, it detects the difference. An event gets triggered, stops the app. But so, I mean, it's not just data collection. It's also like you can intervene and say, okay, now I want you to do something about it immediately. But
yeah, it's pretty amazing, the technology. Everything's analyzed now. Just everything.
I'm sure.
All right. Go ahead, Regina.
I was just going to say, also, if anybody has questions that come up maybe later in the talk, Wesley, would your LinkedIn be or your email or your LinkedIn? Okay, perfect. I actually have your LinkedIn on here as well, so I can share it in the chat with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But also next week we are again. Let me know if anybody else has questions. But just to let everyone know, we do have another Tech Talk next week. It's actually one of our graduates, and they are going to give a talk on some project ideas for React, especially project ideas that you can add to your resume, especially if you're looking for a job. And here is a link for that. And as everybody knows, hopefully, we are recording this and we're going to post it to our YouTube channel later today. And here's a link for this, where you can watch this Tech Talk and all the previous talks in our TikTok playlist. But thank you again so much, Wesley. And thank you everyone else for joining. And I hope everyone has a happy Friday.
Yeah, thanks, Wesley. Great talk. Thank you very much, and have a great weekend.
Yeah, good talk, man. See you guys.
Bye.